want to get our guests on. They're calling in from the road, and we're going to talk a little hockey right now, particularly college hockey. And the schedule just came out for CBS Sports Network, great sports network that started last year. They did some college hockey on their Friday night game of the week. We're joined now by two of the broadcast team joining us. They happen to be married as well. Talking to Dave Starman, who's the color analyst on the broadcast, and Shireen Saski, who does the in-between periods interviews and the pregame show. And I believe they join us by telephone. And Shireen and Dave, is that you?
It is, Doug. Good to hear you again.
Good to hear you, Shireen. How you been? It's been a long time since we had you on. I think we were on the other station at that time in Sarasota, but good to have you join us tonight. When I got the schedule the other day from CBS Sports Network, and last year I had a chance to see some of your games on the Friday night game of the week. First of all, congratulations on that. It's not only great exposure for the game of hockey, but for you as well. I know you did a lot of the games up in Michigan over the last few years, right?
Yeah, I was with Fox Sports Detroit since December or January of 1999. And wouldn't you know it, while covering college hockey, that's how I met Dave Starman, our analyst, and now my husband as well.
Not bad. You got 2 for 1.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you show up at a hockey event and you find a wife. I mean, it's an amazing phenomenon.
Dave, good to talk to you. Dave, first of all, I kind of reading up on you a little bit. You were played briefly in hockey, but you also did some work for the Islanders at one point, didn't you? I grew up in Long Island, so I think you were involved with that for a while.
Yeah, I grew up here, and I think like every other kid who grew up on Long Island in the late 70s and early 80s, we became just infatuated with the New York Islanders and their 4 straight Stanley Cup victories. And, they did a lot of good things for hockey on Long Island. And, having turned to professional scouting later in my career, the old joke in scouting is find an area where
you're on the other line right now. Please leave your name.
We'll get down on in a second. But, yeah, you did some scouting, you said?
Yeah, and then, the old joke in the scouting world is find an area that's a non-grassroots area and have that team win the Stanley Cup and check back 18 years later, and you'll find a lot of good players. And that's what happened here on Long Island because, when the Islanders started to win Stanley Cups in the early 80s, everybody started to put their kids on ice. And, all of a sudden you get into the mid-90s, and we had a rash of kids coming out of Long Island starting to play Division I hockey and starting to play in the NHL. And that has just continued here. It's been a fantastic thing to be a part of.
How did you get started doing the broadcasting with you started up in the Michigan area, right, doing those games up there for Fox Sports Michigan?
Well, actually, Shireen was at Fox Sports Detroit, and I remember my first year, we used to be CSTV, College Sports Television, and my first year, I'm getting ready to do a Michigan game, and I'm watching a tape of their game from the previous weekend that I had taped off of Fox Sports Detroit, and I watched the game, and I'm watching the between period section, and all of a sudden I call my producer, and I say, hey, I know we don't use ringside, but if we ever do, boy, I've got somebody for you. And it never really went anywhere. And then, here's the thing, funny, 6-7 years later, here we are together. I've always respected Shireen's work, and, it was obvious from the first time I saw her do a game and do a broadcast that this wasn't just somebody on air asking questions. This was somebody who did their homework. This was somebody who knew their subject. And, I seem to respect her more the more we work together because now I see the whole package come together in terms of the work ethic, the study habits, and the ability to do it on air. It's really unique, but the good part of us being on air and some of the segments we do together is I get the last word, and that's about the only time I do.
She thinks he gets the last word. The funny thing is, when we got married and I moved here to Long Island, I went into CBS Sports to meet with them to see about a ringside position, and they offered it to me, and then the talent coordinator at the time said, you realize you've married your stalker. And that's when I learned the story that Dave had seen me before and suggested me to them. So it's kind of funny how it all came together.
Well, I didn't know you actually live in Long Island now. I thought you still lived in Michigan. So you live in my old neighborhood. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're on the south shore of Long Island. You can't beat the beach, that's for sure.
No, great place. And I was just looking online today. I saw a story. The Islanders. You may want to put together your own radio station up there, Dave and Shireen. They're on a college radio station again up there. They can't get a commercial station to cover them, so might be an opportunity for you.
You know, it's upsetting sometimes to see because I mean, here's a franchise that was so vibrant for so long, and then they kind of hit a dip in the '90s, and you know, it's unfortunate because they're in a market with they're one of 9 professional sports teams here in the greater New York market, and you know, you're constantly fighting for airtime with the Devils, with the Rangers, with the Knicks, with the Nets, with the Giants, with the Jets, and then you know, you get into the offseason, you get the Mets and the Yankees. There's you know, with 9 teams, it's amazing. It's a big market, but there's only so many stations available for an outlet to have, and then unfortunately, the Islanders have been the 9th team in the market in terms of finding a good radio home. But you know, they've got a really good product on the ice right now, and I tend to think that they have another couple seasons like they've had the last year, that they are going to be a much bigger player, especially with their move to Brooklyn. They're going to be a much bigger player in this market.
Yeah, no doubt. They'll get on there's nothing wrong with the station they're on, but, you know, you're a professional team. You want to be on a station you can sell ads on. I believe that station doesn't allow them to sell ads, so that hurts their product a little bit there. But, yeah, you talk about the heyday of the Islanders. I grew up there when they were winning those cups, and, you know, the Coliseum was, you know, filled every night. But I think it is a good move to go to Brooklyn in a couple of years. And last year they made the playoffs again, so they're a team coming back. But that's something they're going to have to work on. I got to tell you, Dave, I probably knew Shireen way before you did. She and I worked together. Did she ever tell you about her experiences with the Broadcaster Camps of America?
She said if not for you and Bob Miller, she'd have never picked up a microphone.
I give Bob much more credit than me, but she and I were broadcast partners doing Summer League games. Remember those, Shireen?
Oh, yeah. Atlanta, Georgia, right?
Yep, Atlanta, about 110 degrees indoors doing those games.
Yeah, and we had the Atlanta Hawks playing the Russian national team, and we didn't get rosters until like 10 minutes before the game, and they were all Russian names, and, well, you know, at that point you just make stuff up.
We were making up names, but who knew?
Yeah, exactly.
But I think those camps, and they don't run them anymore, I don't believe, but they gave you, I know you were just, I think, out of high school then. Maybe you were first year of college. I had been in college radio, and I think those gave great experiences, at least to me and to you, to work with guys like Bob Miller, great announcer for the Kings. And Dave, I don't know, you had a chance where you started. Did you do a lot of college radio too?
I did. When I was playing at the University of Hartford, I was actually one of the rock and roll DJs on campus, and you know, back then, that was back in the era of the '80s when, you know, long hair was kind of in, and it fit my motif perfectly. But you know, it's funny, like, you know, I joke with people about this. People say, "How did you get started in this?" And you know, you always want to help out the next generation. The kids are always coming up and saying, "Hey, how did you get involved in this? And how did this get started?" And you know, I mean, it happened totally by accident. I mean, I guess the fact that I played and kind of knew the game sort of started to get me, you know, going along the right path. But you know, I got a lucky break in the early 1990s. I was with the Baltimore Skipjacks, and Kenny Albert was our play-by-play guy. And he was an old friend of mine, and you know, we'd grown up together. And you know, Kenny said to me, "You've got a good opportunity here because you can work with the coaching staff, but you know, I also need a color guy." And you know, that's how it really started. I mean, Kenny gets a lot of credit for getting me rolling and getting me started and giving me that opportunity. And again, it was a total accident. But you know, I'm one of those people who believes that, you know, if you get an opportunity and you want to make it happen, then obviously you got to do the legwork to get it done. But I mean, it's just one of those things. I always tell these younger guys in the business, you know, hey, you know, be prepared, work hard, know your stuff, and hopefully a friend of yours gets hired somewhere and hires you. I mean, that's almost the trick.
I remember Kenny. I remember when we did the Skipjacks. I even go back to remember him. We did some games in college radio. He was with the NYU college station, and even before that, when he would do stats for his dad, Marv. Marv would mention him on the radio broadcast when he did the Rangers. So Kenny grew up in the business, obviously, with his dad, Marv, one of the all-time greats.
Absolutely, and I got lucky to follow. So I kind of followed Kenny out of that. Kenny, when he left, I mean, when I was still doing some stuff in New York, I got a chance to do some stats for Marv and Sal, and you know, it's the way you learn this business. I've always felt that whether you're in the talk radio side of it, or the sports radio side of it, or you know, the remote side of it, the best way to learn in this business is to listen to the people who are really, really good and start to understand what they talk about and how they talk and some of the things they do behind the scenes. And, I got lucky to be able to watch John Davidson for years up here at MSG in New York and interact with him. And that's a big part of it, too. And so, I mean, it's another thing we always tell the that next group, find somebody who you think is really, really good and become them, but also continue to be yourself at the same time. And if you could take the best of everybody you have watched and incorporate it as part of your style, the sky becomes the limit.
Talking with Dave Starman and Shireen Saski from CBS Sports Network, the college hockey broadcast team. Let's talk a little bit about the schedule coming up. Both of you can join in, jump in as you want, but I just got the schedule. Looks like you got another good lineup going on Friday night, so then you'll carry that through after you do some of the tournament as well, don't you?
Yes, we are the national home for the National Collegiate Hockey Conference, the new conference in college hockey this year, and so that's really exciting. It's kind of like the SEC of college hockey. You're going to see such excitement and such high level of teams each night. One thing at Media Day, a lot of the coaches talking about, let's see how we come out of the regular season because the competition is going to be so tough night in and night out. But it's going to be really exciting.
I think Sheree makes a great point. I mean, it really is. I mean, this is a conference that's got some elite-level programs. Miami was in back-to-back Frozen Fours within the last couple of years. North Dakota is a perennial favorite to reach a Frozen Four, and they've been in a ton of them. Denver is, won back-to-back championships in the middle of the last decade, and they've always been strong. Colorado College is now on an upswing, and they've got a tremendous history. So Minnesota Duluth won a national title a couple of years ago. St. Cloud State was in the Frozen Four last year. Western Michigan has been a program under Andy Murray, who was a longtime NHL coach, and they all of a sudden are now a powerhouse back on the map. So it's every given night, every weekend, we know we're going to get a great game. We know there's going to be tremendous competition, and you're going to see a lot of players in this conference that within the next couple of years are going to be playing in the National Hockey League, and that's really exciting to know that you're kind of watching them get their start and watching them develop. But it's also going to be kind of cool when 3-4 years down the road, you're saying to yourself, hey, you know what? A quarter of the players that we've broadcasted their games over the last couple of years are now playing in the National Hockey League. That's always kind of neat to see.
Yeah, we had a chance a couple of years ago down here at Tampa. They had the Frozen Four, got great attendance, and obviously with the Lightning down here, it's become a great hockey town, even better than a baseball town, as we've seen with the attendance with the Rays. But yeah, hockey in the South down here is doing very well. Like I said, throughout the whole Northeast, Midwest, you get to see all those great teams, even great arenas. So just watching some of your games last year, some great venues that you get to do these games from.
And, Doug, you talk about the Lightning. They have, I think currently, or at least on their opening night roster, 6 or 7 players on the roster that played on NCHC teams. They weren't NCHC back then, but they come from these programs that we're covering all season.
Yeah, you look at George Wozniacki, the assistant coach. Yeah, Marty St. Louis played at Vermont, and, assistant coach George Wozniacki was the longtime head coach at Denver, and their head coach, John Cooper, while not playing college hockey, he got his start as a hockey coach in East Lansing, Michigan, working with some of the youth hockey programs, and he had a few of the former Michigan State players helping him out to help run some of those East Lansing youth programs. So, I mean, there's a great connection in Tampa with college hockey, and you're right, they did a fantastic job with the Frozen Four a couple of years ago. I mean, we are already campaigning to go back to Tampa.
I don't know where it is this year. I should. Well, where are they having it this year?
Philadelphia, which I think is going to be really neat because, yeah, the Mid-Atlantic very much like Long Island and very much like Pittsburgh and some of these other areas. St. Louis has become a real hockey hotbed, and there are a lot of really good players coming out of the Mid-Atlantic. The coaching there has dramatically improved in the last 15 years. The quality of player is good. They've got really good junior programs and really good youth development programs, and their participation in the coaching education program through USA Hockey has really ramped up also. That is a great hotbed of hockey there in the Mid-Atlantic, and I think Philly is a home run for the Frozen Four this year.
Yeah, great place. Although they just fired their coach today, the Flyers. the big club isn't doing too well, but that's just the way it goes in the NHL. Let's talk a little bit about a team. I know, Shireen, you covered quite a bit, and Dave, I guess you probably did as well. The Detroit Red Wings now moving over to the Eastern Conference. We'll see them more frequently down here in Tampa this year. How do you like their chances?
Well, I like that they're coming east, finally. As a lifelong Wings fan, I hated being in the Western Conference. I liked some of the rivals, but I hated all the late-night West Coast games. And now living on the East Coast, poor Dave, I'm going to be taking him to every Red Wing game that I can. The one thing about the Wings is Jimmy Howard. You know, he's developed so well in net. He is a guy now that can really carry them. But you look at some of the young talent on the Red Wings. These aren't the Red Wings that I covered for 10 years when I was in Detroit. Almost all the players that I covered have retired, which kind of makes me feel old. But you know, I never wanted Chelios to retire because then I would be the oldest in the dressing room. But I like the youth on the team. There's a lot of talent there. Mike Babcock is a brilliant head coach. It'll be interesting to see it all come together, and the off-season acquisitions they made were a great addition as well.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, Daniel Alfredson and his veteran experience is going to bring a lot to that team in terms not only just offense, but just in terms of being there. And, you know, the one thing the Red Wings always had was great veterans, and, you know, he brings that. And Stephen Weiss also, they picked up from Florida. And, you know, he's a guy that's got some goal-scoring punch, can be a top-six forward, can move the puck, can get to the net, and I think he's going to be terrific for him. But Shireen's right. I mean, I think it all rests on the shoulders of Jimmy Howard right now, who, you know, I remember watching Jimmy as a kid and coaching against some teams that he played on when he lived in Western New York, and, you know, went to the University of Maine, and he really found himself in the minor league system of the Red Wings and playing in Grand Rapids. And I think the sky is the limit for Jimmy Howard. He is a composed goalie. He's a great kid, and, you know, he understands what it means to be the goaltender for the Detroit Red Wings, and I think it's one of the reasons that he has improved the way he has. And, you know, if and when Detroit wins another Stanley Cup, I think Howard will be one of those guys that's going to be front and center.
And one of the luxuries the Red Wings have had over the last decade or so is keeping their guys in the minors and developing them. And Jimmy Howard is the perfect example of that. A lot of teams probably would have had to bring him up more quickly than the Wings did, but they were able to give him the time to develop.
Yeah, we had a chance down here. I think I might have mentioned an email to you, Shireen, earlier. Jimmy Devellano, of course, a long time with the Red Wings, makes his home down here in the Sarasota area, so we see him up at the Lightning games quite a bit. He's done a great job before that with the Islanders as well, so he's got a great track record with hockey, picking out talent.
Oh, absolutely. A brilliant hockey mind, and obviously he was a part of the dynasty with the Red Wings.
With the Islanders, I mean, he was the second in command to Bill Torrey, and, you know, when Bill was building those teams through the 70s, Jimmy Devellano's handprints were all over those teams that won those 4 Stanley Cups. He's just a tremendous hockey mind.
And Jimmy D groomed Ken Holland, and Ken Holland groomed some guy named Steve Yzerman, who's in Tampa.
Right. Yeah. He's had a little bit of they did okay, but I mean they got to get it going this year. They're not making the playoffs last year, but new ownership came down here, kind of refurbished the arena, so it's kind of and of course they got rid of their coach last year as well, so that caused a little bit of an upheaval. But fans still show up down here. It's good for attendance. People come down here and support the Lightning. But well, I don't want to keep you too long. I know you're heading out to dinner or something tonight, but just give out the fans once again. When can they see the game? Well, when's the first game you guys got?
Our first game is a week from Friday. It's the University of North Dakota at Miami University. It's going to be a great one. That I believe is an 8 o'clock start in the East, and then it's part of a doubleheader. University of Minnesota Duluth will be at Colorado College as the second half of our doubleheader, and we're going to kick it off right, and we're going to get it going, and we are really excited. It's a 20-game package. It's 4 games in the first half and 16 in the second half, and it culminates with the NCHC championship game in mid-March. And, you know, I could say this as somebody who was there from day one of this package when it started 11 years ago. We've watched it grow. We've watched a lot of other networks pick up college hockey, and, you know, we're really proud of being the pioneers, the ones that picked up regular season games and did them week after week after week and trying to become the Monday Night Football of college hockey. And, you know, we just hope we can inform and analyze and entertain and keep fans going.
Well, it's a lot of fun, not only seeing the way you interact with your play-by-play man. Of course, Shireen, really a tough job when you got to get in and out quickly with the player interviews and the between periods to kind of keep it flowing. I know you do little features in the stands with the fans. Keep you thinking to find something to talk about, but you do a great job with that. It's not an easy job.
Oh, thanks a lot, Doug. It's so much fun. and to be able to share it with my husband. I mean, the hockey talk that goes on in our house might drive some people nuts, but for us, it's just second nature.
Well, let's do something if you're available. Love to have you on maybe come, late winter, early spring as we head into, the playoffs with the college hockey and talk to you again at that point. But appreciate you joining us tonight. We wanted to have you on for quite a while, and I'm glad you could work it out. And Dave Starman and Shireen Saski have been our guests, and have a great season. We'll talk to you later in the year.
Thanks for having us.
Take care.